I think that even that just lends to the importance of evolution as a whole of people that are in the online space. It's never a one and done thing.
Right.
I've had to continuously evolve myself, my products, my services, my offers, my messaging, ever since I started in 2016. So that's kind of my evolution of how I've gotten here. And now that's really where I tend to live. I have a podcast.
Yes, the influencer podcast. It's so good. Y'all, she was like the original influencer before everybody called themselves an influencer. Just so you know, she coined the phrase. It might not be copyrighted, but I give it all to Julie Solomon during that.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, it's been fun.
It is fun.
Coaching, all of it. So it's a fun ride.
Well, and I think that there, like you mentioned briefly, but I've got to witness as a community member and somebody who follows you on social media, what that evolution looked like also from a personal development perspective, like having your journey into motherhood and the experience of how that played into being an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of like friction and tension and time management and some things that happen that I think a lot of people like feel whiplash connected to it sometimes of like, is it even possible that I can continue? But you had already built like such a beautiful base when you were in like the background time frame of that. What was that like from a time management perspective?
Yeah, I think this is such a great topic because it was actually motherhood that got me into doing what I do today. Because in 2013, I had my first child, and I knew very quickly that I did not want to be, for me, what felt shackled and prisoned to some very kind of corporate 9-to-5 type of cubicle, which now in 2023, so many people can relate to that. Back in 2013, that was very corporate.
Yeah, you were a little
not
cuckoo.
A lot of people, right. Not a lot of people related to it, or I think more than anything, Tamra, a lot of people desired it, but they were too afraid to admit it.
Totally.
And so I was combating kind of the social norms of that. So I was already a little bit different because I was like, I don't want a 9-to-5 anymore. I want to go do my own thing. And yes, it's scary, but it's going to give me the freedom and flexibility to work from home so I can see my son more. Of course, I had to hire help eventually once I was able to afford it because I couldn't work and be with him at the same time. That's where you learn in the time management of the trial and error. But it was that desire to have the freedom and flexibility as a mom that gave me the passion and drive to create my own thing. And then from that, it was a lot of trial and error. In the beginning, I had to just, it was kind of like, okay, I'll work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have my son because Tuesdays and Thursdays, he's at childcare. And then, that started to expand over time. And I learned through, the hard seasons and then kind of seasons that felt more in flow, a schedule that really worked for me. And it's a schedule that I've had now for several years. And mind you, I had another child 2 years ago. I have a daughter who's almost 3. So I had to kind of reshift that again. But I am someone who, I think I have been successfully working from home really since 2013. And to me, when I say successfully, I mean, I've been able to figure out the imperfect balance of whatever that is for me and my family. And so the way that looks now is that I get up and I have mornings with my family. And then once they're out the door, so to speak, my daughter doesn't go anywhere because she's 2. But once we get my son out the door and we get her situated, I tend to be on from about the hours of 10 to 3 or 10 to 4. Monday through Thursday is really my on hours. And I've gotten very regimented and streamlined with when I do podcasting, calls and interviews, when I have, days for more creative stuff, when I have days for some of the back end stuff that's not fun. And I think that the best advice I think I could give anyone, especially to moms out there that feel that whiplash, is that in the day-to-day moments that you do have, the precious moments that you do have to sit behind your desk and to have that, start thinking about what is really essential today. That if I could do all the things that I could do, all the things that I quote unquote have to do, what is really essential today? How much time do I have available to me to do that today? And what would it take to make happen? And those 3 questions can really help keep you focused in a straight path when you're trying to figure out time management for yourself.
That's really good. And I think like connected to that, it's the knowing of self that is developing as you're exploring it, right? Like I love that you're like, it was kind of trial by fire. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I got it wrong and there's no judgment in that. It's like the grace upon grace. Like that's the thing that we need most. But I also admire that you didn't quit and that you knew that this was a part of your passion, this was a part of your purpose, and you have so many cool tools that people need, that honestly I've been in the coaching world now for several years. And a lot of people don't have this next caliber understanding, just that you're saying from the PR perspective. They might understand systems and operations, but you can have the best systems of operations and then no one's coming into your system or operation. And so I love the Pitch It Perfect concept. And I love that you not only in that program teach to like how to be confident in yourself, but also how to pitch yourself beautifully, tactfully, without being and like everyone else and standing out from the crowd. A part of that is our own mental problems, which I know is associated to your book. Like get out of your own way, right? Get out of your way. Get what you want by getting out of your way, and then how to go from being unseen to unstoppable. Can you talk about the evolution of the book connected to your personal story?
Yeah, I would love to. It's a great question. I mean, I think the first thing that is important to share is that I've always had just an unwavering faith. Like even my husband's like, you just have this faith about you. Just know that like everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, well, of course. Like I am 1,000,000% supported. And so I feel like I'm very, you know, and as I got older, I realized I was like, oh, there's people that don't have that or aren't connected to that or don't, you know, that's something that they have to, it's like a learned skill set. Whereas for me, I think growing up in a church, growing up and having, you know, my parents instill that, I didn't know anything different.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that beautiful ignorance is bliss where I'm like, I can just go through life and like, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah,
And of
that's
course
good.
it's not always that easy because there is just the reality of the human existence and there's the reality of life. But everything starts for me from that core basis of like, even when things are not working out, it's still working out for me. And even though things may be hard and I may be in a season of just really bad struggle and I can't seem to see the other end of it, I know that I am going to be supported and I just need to surrender to whatever this moment is. And like, I will get there when I am supposed to get there. And so for me, that a lot of that really comes from that getting what you want. It's like, I believe that anyone can get what they want if they first believe that getting what they want is possible for them. And the way in which I think people believe that is believing in something greater than yourself, believing in the faith to drive you to that next phase, that next desire, whatever that is in your life, and knowing that you can trust and that you are supported each step of the way. So that's the big step there. And then for my own personal journey, it was a lot of, I think, revealing that belief that I have to myself as a truth. Because there's a lot in my life that I never would have thought I could actually do it. But it was like that little voice inside me was like, oh, could I maybe write a book one day? Could I share my voice and people care? Could I create something that actually impacts people, that changes their lives, that gives them permission to live a life to whatever the fullest is for them? Is it really possible to get what you want and not just check off the boxes and on to the next? And so for me, it was a discovery of that. And then also really rooting into gratitude once you do get what you want. I think that's a big thing too, is recognizing when you finally have something that you so badly wanted, maybe a year, 2, 3, 5 ago, and really taking those moments in for the gratitude pieces as well. So that's kind of how it's parlayed into a lot of my own journey.